So without further ado, Tyler Savery is going to talk to us about the second screen. So, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Oh, nice. It's loud. I'm going to have to lean into it. All right, so this is the first screen, and that's the second screen. Thank you. Okay, let's get started. First off, before I even talk about myself, I just wanted to say that because I'm doing a presentation on the second screen, you can actually go on to my slides right now at the URL that I just tweeted about it, at Tyler Savery. You can find that URL. And it'll actually be in sync with what I'm talking about. So as I change the slides, they'll change on your device too. And I'll talk about the tech in that later. Okay, so my name is Tyler Savery. I run a company called The Young Astronauts. We're an interactive media production company, mostly based out of Toronto. So we do everything from web to apps to video production to kind of tying everything sort of together. I mostly work in JavaScript, PHP, and Objective-C, as well as I dabble with other things. Those are kind of my primary tools of the trade. I love doing things that are going to improve my workflow, something that I can spend maybe a lot of time on to then be able to improve or optimize my time later on. And I had a little note here that, I think life would suck without JSON. I remember using XML, and it was the worst. Enough about me. Okay, so what is the second screen? It's kind of, it's sort of a fairly new concept. Essentially, I don't know if you've probably experienced it before, but from Wikipedia it says, the second screen refers to the use of a computing device, commonly a mobile device such as a tablet or smartphone, to provide an enhanced viewing experience for content on another device, such as a television. So some good examples out here, we have this, there's this online arcade website. Basically, with this, you download an iPhone app. I think they probably have an Android version too. And you play games like you normally would, except instead of using your keyboard, you're using your mobile phone to play along. Oh, no. Okay, I think someone... don't go to this link with the word master in here. I gave a link without master. Please. Another example is time play. How many people have played time play at a Cineplex before? All right, good chunk. So it's a lot of fun. It's probably my favorite part of one of the movies used to be the trailers. Now it's time play. So basically, before the movie starts, there's trivia questions that come on. Everyone in the audience answers. It's really exciting, and you win popcorn. It's great. Another example, simple one, is like your Apple TV remote. You can download an app, and essentially you can control things without having to use the stupid little thing to write a whole sentence down. As well as on our current website, the Young Astronauts website, if you go to a certain part of it, there is a second screen experience where you can log in and sort of play a Space Invaders game. I'll let you do that on your own time. What else? Okay, so there's obviously technology being used to make this happen. It's not just magic, although it seems like magic to some people. So I'm using, on the client side, I'm using basically JavaScript along with some jQuery to make things a little bit easier. On the server side, there's Node.js, so also using the language JavaScript. And I'm specifically using a framework called Socket.io. However, doing this, there's many ways to do it. So I'm using Node.js with Socket.io, but you can also just use sort of like standard web sockets. If you're using Java, there's something called Jetty. Python has like Tornado. And then .NET, Super WebSocket. So that's a good reason to get into .NET right now, because they have something called Super WebSocket. Some history for a little bit here. So we remember, and it still exists today, the standard HTTP request model. Basically, get and post, and I'm, a browser, and I'm like, I want to go to this page, so I tell the server, hey, I'm going to this page. Server's like, cool, you want that page? All right, here's that page. And you're like, yeah, I got it. And then if you want to see another page, you got to click on a link, and then the same thing happens again. It's kind of a request you have to ask things. Then Ajax was invented, which made it a little bit different. Now JavaScript could kind of go out to the server and just ask for a piece of information, or even just say, I want to increment the counter on this or something. And then the server's like, cool, I'll do that, and I'll send you back some JSON or maybe a web page or something. And then generally you'll update the DOM and you'll give an alert to be like something happened, but it didn't actually have to refresh the page. The URL still stayed the same. And what you could do, things like, I remember when Foursquare was kind of getting popular on their homepage, they would like show events and they'd come up and come up. And I was like, that's really cool. It looks like some kind of socket thing. But I looked into the code and really it was just polling. It was just kind of like every 5 seconds it would ask the server for something. But it made it seem sockety. I think I invented that word. Then came something called long polling, which is still being used in, I believe Gmail still uses it. I mean, the whole Hangout thing, although they might change it. I don't know if they've changed it, but essentially what it is, it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to make a connection with the server and keep that connection open, and essentially when something changes, I'll eventually know as it kind of loops back. It works well, but it's not necessarily the best for something where you need to connect to something but not always be talking to it. So like, some kind of game or something, you might actually get a lot of latency. So the performance is a little bit heavier. Then we enter, one more small note. I wrote, for example, Comet. And when I was doing a little bit of research on some things, I found out the reason he called it Comet was based off of the fact that Ajax just came out recently, and they're both cleaning products. All right, now comes WebSockets. So now we have this thing where the browser can be like, yeah, I want to talk to the server now, so it talks to the server. And the server can be like, you know what, just for shits and giggles, I'm going to talk to the browser. And the browser's like, cool, you talk to me. So it's like a persistent connection. And they can it's not using much latency when nothing's really, it's not using much performance or anything when nothing's happening. It just has to send things. Things can stay connected for a long time. So now we can kind of enter a world where we can think different as web developers. We're not necessarily kind of stuck in this paradigm of, okay, I have to wait for the browser to say something. The server at any point can do something. When another browser does something, or another user does something, the server can be like, hey, update everything to these people. All right, a little bit of example code here. This is a simple example. Basically like a very simple chat sort of application. So I'll show you the mobile code first. So this is essentially what you'd see at least on the JavaScript side. So first we connect to a socket, and I'm using the socket.io thing, so io.connect, and you connect to, usually it's not going to be localhost obviously for a multiplayer thing, but for this demo it's fine. And then we had a handler for when the server tells me there's a message. So I say socket.on message, and I check just to make sure that the sender isn't mobile, because I only want to talk to the desktop in this instance. And then if the action that they're sending is hello, I alert the message hello, or whatever the message is. And then I have an action, just a jQuery bind here, just to be like, okay, when the submit button's clicked, I'm going to take the certain data and submit it. Then in the middle, so we had the mobile. Now we're in the middle. We have the server, and it's listening on that same port that we've set right here, and it's running. And it kind of has a listener. Okay, when there's a connection made, it's going to create a room. In this case, I'm calling the room jQueryTO, and it joins the room, and then it's going to emit something. So every socket that's already in this room is just going to emit a message saying, hey, there's a new guest here. And you'd be able to pass data as well, like saying maybe the guest name or how many guests there are now, whatever you really wanted, but it's just blank. And then I also decided to say, hey, I'm going to broadcast something called new neighbor. Now the difference between sockets.inroom.emit and broadcast is really the fact that this message will go to it could go to one person or it could go to 100 if there's 100 people in the room, whereas broadcast is going to go to everyone who's connected to this application. So that's why I'm saying new neighbor here. It's not really someone they can talk to, but there's someone else in the ecosystem. And then we bind something saying, okay, if there's a message, we want to do this, and then sockets in room, let's emit that message. So you'll kind of see this is like a paradigm I'm sort of using where I'm using the same name for the inbound and the outbound, allowing it to be very easy that once you kind of have the server thing set up, and you'll see this when I show the desktop, you don't really have to worry about this anymore. The client can send whatever it wants, and this is kind of just like a middleman that's like, oh, I'm getting something, okay, I'm going to send the same thing out to everyone else. So on the desktop side, you'll see this is very similar to the mobile one. Just some words have been changed and whatnot. But basically, when the socket sends a message, I'm going to like alert that thing, and when the submit button is clicked, I'm going to do it. So that's a very basic example. Let's see it in action. All right, let's hope this works. This is the scariest part of any presentation. I know there was internet problems yesterday, so let's see. All right, we're going to open up this. I should have a phone somewhere. So this is the Toronto skyline at kind of night. And where's my guy? Oh, no. Got disconnected. Bear with me for 1 second. Okay, is that too small? No, that's enough to see. There's my phone. This is my phone right here. That's cool. So I have this little web page that I'm going to go to, and I'm going to connect using the room code that's up there, 4326 in this case. And this nice little switch shows up, and I can just kind of go on, and I can go off, off, off. And yeah, it eventually goes. There we go. Cool. So that's a really simple demo, just kind of like a toggle sort of concept and everything. So what's going on there? Well, I kind of explained how it worked before, so I think this should be pretty straightforward. Basically, there's 3 components. There's the mobile client running on my phone. There's the server-side Node.js application, and then there's the desktop application, which was that nice little picture. So the mobile client is simple. It's basically just saying that when the switch button is clicked, assuming it's just a toggle, basically meaning if it's checked, it's going to remove the class and it's going to submit something, a message called toggle with a state of false. And in this case, it's going to submit something that's true. So it's just sending the server, hey, something has changed and it's now set to true or it's now set to false. On the server side, you've already kind of seen this snippet, but basically when oh, you know what? This is a little older. This should say like toggle or whatever, but basically like as soon as the message happens of some sort, it goes. And then on the desktop, basically when it receives something, it's going to be like, hey, okay, set the opacity to 1 on this, and we have someone who is stealing my slides again. I have a backup plan. Local version. /slacks. Yeah, I should have thought about that ahead of time. We already did this, we already did this, we already did this. Okay, cool. So is that all the code? No, there's obviously more code. There's like, the index.html that's going to actually include everything and whatnot. There's CSS going on. There's a few different things. I'll give you a very quick walkthrough of kind of like how this actually looks in my Sublime. Is that font big enough? Make it a little bigger? A little bigger? That's probably good. So this is and I'm going to go quickly through this. I'm not going to give you every little detail. All this code is up online on my GitHub, which you can find, and you can play around with it. You can fork it. You can do a pull request because I made all this stuff for this day, so it's not like this is all. I wouldn't call this stuff super production ready, but hopefully it's ready enough for this presentation. But essentially, all that happens, you connect to the server. When a connection is made, it kind of calls this function down here. I generate a room name, which is just a simple, math thingy-dingy with randomization and stuff. I submit something called a handshake, and then I join that room. And then when the passcode is sent, which is that whole, so that you can kind of have different rooms and whatnot, it basically gives it a nickname and submits to everyone, hey, we're ready to go. And then I have these few different helpers here. One of them is when something is being messaged, sending that same data through. We've seen that already. And then I have a couple other ones which toggle you've seen as well. This is the one that basically was for that light switch sort of thing that would send either true or false. And the draw one we'll get into in a little bit. So that's what's running on the server. That's like a Node JavaScript file running. Basically we have an index.php, and I'll explain why I'm using PHP in a little bit. But essentially, it just does some things. It has some configuration sort of data based off of what thing is running. Sets some settings here that can be accessed through JavaScript. This is literally this is the thing for that switch, which I didn't make that switch. I just found it on like CodePen or something like that, and I'm gonna try and give credit where it's due, and I remember who made it. Basically, the way I'm kind of built this like micro framework is it's one index file for both the mobile and the non-mobile, and basically in the configuration it determines if it's mobile, so that I can kind of have this is my HTML for my mobile and this is my HTML for my desktop, and it kind of just keeps it in one file. And same thing, it includes the mobile JS or the desktop JS. Yeah, okay, so that's all I want to kind of show, just so you can kind of see like the broader picture, but feel free to kind of go in it a lot deeper in the future if you like. What happened? Oh yes, that was, no. How is this happening? My slideshow is being hijacked locally. Do I have two running? Like, what is... Okay, I think this is where we are. Make sure. Oh yeah, okay, there's a few things. So you might have seen some PHP in there. You're like, what the heck? Why is there PHP in there? The reason I did it, I thought it would be kind of easier just to sort of show like an HTML file with some embedded PHP rather than a whole like Node.js Express-based sort of thing. It does allow it to be flexible because we're kind of using sockets just for one component. We're not using like Node.js for everything. So it allows you to kind of throw this into, even like a WordPress site if you wanted to pretty easily. I didn't want to push too much on the backend stuff. This isn't a backend conference. And just deal with it. So yeah, I have this, what I'm calling like a second screen framework. I know there's a lot of like socket frameworks and stuff out here. This is one that I've made specifically for just kind of getting something up quickly. And yeah, you can fork it on GitHub. I've put it up. I even have like a README file, which is nice, a little markdown there, so you can kind of see how to install. It's really simple. You just clone it. If you already have Node, and npm, you just basically do npm install. All the dependencies come, and then yeah, you just point a web server to the root, and things will kind of work, hopefully. Yeah, so you can fork it on GitHub. What do I have after here? Okay, so how do you actually run this app? Because it's obviously running somewhere. So you can do it locally, which is a great way to do it for testing stuff. And basically the way it works, and I will show you in my terminal here. Let me just stop all my processes. Basically here, and I don't know if I can make this bigger. Nice. So all I have to do to run one of my apps, so I have that file app.js. I've already kind of shown you versions of that file already. And I just have to do node app.js. If you've worked in Node before, you're probably like, obviously, duh. Now this is great, but the problem is as soon as I close my tab, all of a sudden, or I exit this or something, it's just going to go down. So one of the dependencies that I've actually included in this package is called Forever, and essentially how it works, it's similar to running Node and then the app, except it keeps it kind of running in memory. So I just have to do Forever start app. And it's kind of running there, and now I can still do things. It's not, it's not in like some logging mode. Now, say I have something running, and I'm like, what's running? I can write forever list. And nope, I spelt it wrong. Fix me. And it's telling me, okay, the app.js is running, and what I don't know, the PID and all these sort of things. And if I want to stop everything, I can just write forever stop all. I'm not going to do that because I kind of want it running. Also, so make sure when you are doing this stuff, like a lot of the time I'll be like, why isn't this working? I'm like, oh, I have to restart my Node app because I've made some changes to it. So just remember to do that. However, you can get a debug version of Node that allows you to, this command here, run like node daemon --debug, and it lets you, it kind of like watches for changes and reloads stuff. I wouldn't use that in production because it's going to run into probably memory problems and stuff, but for development, it's great. All right, let's do some review. So we have I/O, which is basically the connection sort of library, socket I/O. Listening, that's what we do. We pick a port and we listen on that port. We can bind to things, so io.sockets.on, event name, do this function. Socket.emit is being, okay, I'm going to talk to that specific person that's been messaging me, that client. Socket.broadcast, I want to talk to everyone who's in this app. Socket.inroom.emit, I want to talk to people who are in my room specifically. And those are some good keywords. More demos. Okay, let's hope all this stuff works. All right, go into my demos. Tilt to Rubik's. We have a Rubik's Cube here. I think that disconnect. I don't have to show this one necessarily, because it's pretty obvious what's going to happen. So I go to my Tilt to Rubik's on here as well, and well, did a bunch of people go to it at once? Is that what's happening right now? Hang on.
Oops.
Okay, normally this works smoother. It could be the internet, it could be the fact that I have this running, or it could be that someone else is on this URL as well. Let me try connecting one more time. 1, 6, 2, 6. Okay, So this is what's supposed to happen. It's when you tilt, it's just supposed to go crazy. No, it usually works better. It could be the internet. It could be whatever. But basically, what I'm doing here that's a bit different than the last thing. Instead of a switch, I'm making use of the gyroscope in this thing. And again, you can look at the code to see exactly what's sort of going on there. Let's do another demo. This one, I invite you to be a part of. So anyone who, you need to have, I think, like either a tablet or a mobile phone. If you don't, you can go to the URL and append $m equals 1, and that'll kind of trick it thinking it's mobile. But yeah, I'm going to go to this myself. So it's, ss, which is second screen, .theyoungastronauts.com / if you just go to that, ss.theyoungastronauts.com, it'll bring you to a menu, and then you can be a part of this. So I'm going to do the same thing. This one's called Draw Board if you are going through the menu. And I see that someone's already taken a part. And yeah, I want to give a little bit of credit here. The default color is this this green color that the hex code is BADA55. That's like, I don't know, a lot of developers know that's Wes Boss's like favorite color. Basically, he did a blog post maybe about a year, maybe 2 years ago, kind of like that. Basically, this is like this whole drawing sort of canvas sort of application, and it's kind of what got me first into like actually trying out this stuff and experimenting with it. So I just want to give a little bit of credit to him for pushing me on the right path there. So yeah, everyone's drawing. This is great. It's working fine. Awesome. Okay, let's do another demo. You guys can keep playing if you want. So what we've kind of been doing, we've basically been using the mobile phone as like a remote kind of like input to this sort of output. Let's kind of switch tracks here a little bit. I'm going to load this closed captioning desktop app. It's still loading for a second. And same sort of thing, if you want to go on your mobile phone to the same and click on closed caption. Maybe I'll pull this up too. Cool. And just so we can actually hear. Let me sign in. 3519. Okay, let's hope this works. This was like the most recent one I built. So.
Now, when I say hello, Mr. Thompson, and press down on your foot, you smile and nod. No problem. Hello, Mr. Thompson.
What is it about?
I think he's talking
Right,
to
it's
you.
not working for me right now. But the first one came in. Basically, I'm using Popcorn.js to kind of like tie to this video, and the video sends, instead of like normally you'd see like a caption show up on the bottom of the page, it actually just sends a socket call to that. I think like just, this isn't running on like a super good server. Oh, I just look, it got the signal now. So I mean, there's obviously latency issues, and again, I don't think the internet's like the best here. A lot of people are sharing it, obviously, but it still kind of worked. And okay, one more demo for now. Simple trivia game that we can go to. So this is a pretty big use for this whole second screen concept, the ability, like time play and stuff, to be able to get engagement and everything. So trivia game. Now this time, there's a little bit of difference. Oh shoot, I have to, okay. So let me just stop all my, oh my gosh, forever, stop. So I've just been using that app, I think it's stop all one word, that app.js file, and it's kind of handled all these things, because it's a very simple, it's kind of like this middleman messenger thing. But a lot of the time, you're going to need to build something that's robust and specific for an app. So I've made a separate one called Trivia, and I'll just run it. Oops, Trivia. So this one's a little bit different, and if we have time, I'll walk you through the code a little bit more. But if you go to that page now, I'm going to refresh because it's actually connected to the right thing now. And I'll pull this up just in case people don't want to play. Okay, 4, 9, 6, 7. Hope this one goes smoother. And give it my name. Cool. And wow, look at all these players coming in. This is great. This is great. Welcome to my game. We have 33. Wow, all their names are showing up there, as you can see. Very cool. Someone is, maybe I clicked that, someone clicked that, either way. Okay, so we have questions and feel free to answer them. So you'll see it kind of, once you pick something, you kind of get locked out and can't do anything else until it goes. Now there's also a chance that I've just been testing this on iOS. There could be a chance that some of the Android people out there are going to have a bad time. I don't know. I haven't had time to test it all. It's working fine. Great. So some people have rung in. I'm sure, like again, like the server I'm running this on is just like it's like an Amazon like micro instance. Like not everything's going to be super smooth, but yeah, we have a few people that have answered at least. So I'm just going to click the next one. Something. I feel like someone's hijacking everything I'm doing. Yeah, there's definitely something funky going on here. I got like questions 8 of 5, 13 of 5. It's probably because I haven't QA'd this thing with like 67 people yet. But thank you for being part of my QA team. So what? I'll quickly show you what's a little bit different about this one. So trivia.js. Same sort of thing. The initialization is kind of the same. I have this function called game data, which basically you can call and gets things like the actual players, all their nicknames, and just returns this data object that both the client or both clients can use. So things like the total players, what question you're on, that kind of thing. Same sort of thing for like the room handling and everything. But I have this function here, new question. So when the browser clicks, someone on the browser, the controller, the master, clicks the new question button. We increment the question. We find a question. I have this question database, which is actually just, there's no database, it's not real. And if, assuming there is a question, meaning we're not at game over, it's going to increment it, or it's going to set this ID, and then it emits the new question and passes in this question thing. And then I have another thing for giving answers. So when someone selects an answer, it basically comes in and goes, okay, based off, I have this function that checks to see if the answer is right. If it is, yes. I think we all should be a little bit scared right now. I have to go. Okay. And then, yeah, so that's the given answer. And then there's also, I don't think I've shown this, but basically on a disconnect, we want to, bring the players down by one and all this sort of stuff. This function is just stuff about the questions. Again, like I said, there's no database. Here's all the answers. If you look at the source code, you could get 100% on this test. There's 4 questions, I don't know. Okay, cool. So that's just what's sort of different about that. Everything on the client side is more or less straightforward and the same. Okay, so we've done the rubrics, we've done the draw board, we've done the closed captioning. It kind of worked. Classic controller. I'm going to show that in a bit, in a moment. Okay, so I've been showing stuff that's using basically HTML5 at one end, HTML5 at the other end, and in the middle is obviously like a Node.js application. But is that the only option here? Of course not. I mean, you've played time play, some of you have. Obviously, you're not going to a website, it's a native app. So there are other options. Unity 3D could be at your client end for showing a game. So you could actually build something really interesting that you can't right now do without a complicated game engine. Obviously, you can have a mobile app at either end. You can have a Mac or PC app, like a native exe or a .app file running. Things like the console. I didn't bring it up earlier, but an obvious thing that's making use of this whole second screen concept is the new Nintendo Wii U. I guess it's not that new anymore. Yeah, you have the screen that's like your controller, but you also have, obviously, the screen to play along with. Movie theater. We talked about that already. Arduino. So I'll show you a little video. This is something that, to me, is second screen. I'm using at one end an Arduino and a Raspberry Pi's in the middle, Arduino at one end, and then I'm actually using a text message at the other end. So that's my finger. Sent a message. And eventually, texts are slow, it's not my fault. Get that little blink saying it's good, and there it comes in. So, I didn't want to bring my Arduino and show this live because I had enough demos, and I knew that that would definitely go wrong. There's like, you need a static IP. There's all these things. So basically, what it's using, I'm using Twilio which is a SMS client to like listen for an SMS, and then it kind of sends through a socket to my Raspberry Pi, and that thing, sorry, it post requests to my Raspberry Pi, and then the Raspberry Pi through a kind of like a serial socket, it sends that message. And so this was just a cool mix of like hardware and all this sort of stuff. Okay, show one more thing here. At least one more thing. Okay, so like I said, I'm running this trivia one right now, but I don't want to run trivia. I just want to run my standard one. So node.js, and I can tell because I don't have a passcode something was wrong, but I should have one now. I said I should. Oh, that's my local one. Demo 6, nope, demo 5. Okay, there we go, we have a passcode. And is my phone still connected? Barely. There we go. Yeah, this app that I'm using, it's called Reflector, and it's, I think, yeah, Reflector. It allows you to kind of like AirPlay right to your computer screen, and it's really nice. What is I loading? Okay, so I have this thing. Now, I didn't make this, as you know. This is a game called Mario, Super Mario Bros. 3. Great game. And what I have here is a little native app that I made. Very simple. And connect like normal. 9535. And I have this really nice controller here. And if everything works properly, there's so many people on this server right now. There we go. Of course, like it literally worked all week, and then it's like, no. I wonder if I could. I'm sorry. Okay, but what's going on here? Same sort of thing. I mean, it worked a little bit because I pushed start. You can't get to this without pushing start. But I think I just have some way too much stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, and something is not optimized at all. So I challenge you to look through and fix this for me. Cool. But basically, I just wanted to kind of show there. I don't have to use HTML5. I can with Xcode and like iOS development, you can still talk with sockets. Same with Unity. And basically, I just pulled in this JavaScript emulator that's really cool, and I kind of hacked into its API to kind of be like, okay, instead of accepting buttons, I'm gonna. Oh, something's really wrong here. Some keyboard's barely working. I should have just pretended like that it was working and just like gone like this or something, but whatever. Anyways, I didn't really want to get into the level because I suck, and I'd probably die when the first Goomba comes. So probably for the best here. Okay. Okay, I'm okay. I'm okay. What else did I want to do? Okay, so I guess a bit of a conclusion and stuff here. Second screen is here. Obviously, we're seeing it more and more. Where I think it's useful right now, obviously in entertainment, you're seeing it. It's helping with engagement. I mean, there's a lot of conferences and stuff that are allowing you to be a part of. Instead of just listening there and going on Tumblr or whatever, you could actually be a part of it. And like education too. A lot of classrooms like have those like they're starting to do like trivia games and stuff, and the teachers can kind of control it and do all this sort of thing. Now, what about the third screen? Now, to me, the third screen is just okay. Like instead of a mobile device and a computer, you have a mobile, a tablet, and a computer, and somehow they all talk together. I read a thing on like Microsoft. They're trying to like patent or like control this like third screen thing, because I guess they missed out on the second screen, but I don't think they can really do that. It's really the exact same thing, just an extra client. So I found some things when I was looking. Maybe you've heard of these, maybe you haven't. If you read online articles, you've maybe heard of it. So a little while ago, you were able to go to the movie theater and watch The Little Mermaid. And you could bring your iPad, and you got the app, the Disney app or whatever, and it was this game you could kind of play along with the movie. And that's kind of, I mean, that'd be really annoying, but like, it's a cool concept. Chromecast, they've released their SDK I think in the last couple months. But basically, this would allow you to do like video stuff and everything through multi-peers and everything. So that's kind of relevant. The link's in there. Which one was this? So The Walking Dead. What did this app do again? It was just kind of a way that as you were watching the show, you would get like exclusive content and stuff, sort of all in sync with the episode, and you could probably like tweet through it or something like that too. Cool stuff like that. Okay, so this one's good. Team Coco, Conan. I think it's like Conan Co. But it's a synchronization sort of thing. As it shows on, you're getting like extra bonus content, and I think you can like maybe pause it or something, and maybe watch his like awesome intro again, and all that sort of stuff. And then to me, like I was thinking about this, I'm like, in some sense, Shazam, which I'm sure you've all heard of, is kind of a second screen experience, but like in more like an audio form. You have the big screen, which is essentially the radio playing a song, even though it's with your ears, and then you have your second screen, which is telling you this is that song, and you should buy it now on iTunes. So I just wanted to throw that one in there. I think it's pretty relevant. Okay, I still have 10 minutes left, so I'll see if there's any questions first, and if people are interested, I could show. I kind of like tried to go through some of the code really quickly. I could definitely go back and show something a little more in depth now that I know I have the time to do it. So does anyone have any questions for me? I can't see, so just yell it.
There is a mic in the middle of the room back here. You want to get ordered in the line. Otherwise,
Shout. Oh yes, I see you. Hello. So for hosting, for the Node application, you could definitely there's like Node.jitsu, which is a pretty well recommended one. I think they even have like a free tier that allows you to sort of do things. That works fine, but Node.js, it runs on, you don't want to put it on like probably like Bluehost or GoDaddy or something like that. I'm using Amazon Web Services, specifically in EC2, with the Amazon AMI file or instance. So that allowed me to, it doesn't come with Node.js, but I could easily just do apt-get install Node or whatever sort of package manager you sort of like. But it's definitely flexible. There's not too many dependencies.
Are there any issues with supporting multiple clients on a Node.js instance on a server?
Yes, as we saw. So I don't know if you heard his question. Is there any problems with hosting multiple clients? Definitely. I mean, there's obviously optimization things you have to do. I kind of put this code together for example purposes, and it worked great when I was testing it around my office with like 2 or 3 people. Obviously, we saw when 67 people were playing, there's a problem. I don't think that's like a global problem. I know it's a pretty scalable solution, and there's definitely ways around it. I probably just didn't necessarily do it the most optimized sort of way. I was kind of sending data to everyone when sometimes you only have to send it to the desktop specifically. But there's lots of applications and stuff that are using it.
What do you do with optimizing your socket communication?
How would I do it?
Yeah.
To me, the first step would be really looking at what I'm sending, and I'm sending this packet of data that I might have some information in that isn't necessarily useful. As well as being like, do I really have to send this to, I kind of had that like middleman ideology where there's like the server's kind of like, it receives a message and it sends the same thing, kind of like using that as like a dam to be able to be like, well, the mobile doesn't really care about this, so I'm only going to send it to people in these room. Doing things like that, thinking it out a little bit more could definitely help. As well as, just like, the cool thing is when you're running a node, you kind of see all the things that are happening. So just being able to like while you're testing the app, see, oh, this thing was set 3 times. I couldn't tell, but like now I can see that. So just things like that. Again, I kind of put most of this together for demonstration purposes. So it's definitely could use a lot of work to make it scalable for sure. Yes.
Is it becoming more popular, like with your clients, to be interested in this kind of thing, or is it still a little bit a ways away?
Right now, it's definitely a good marketing tactic. Like people can go on our website and play Space Invaders, and we've got a lot of people that have just found out about us through that. I haven't had a client yet hire me for like exactly this. Like we've done some game dev and stuff for people, but not specifically this. But I see it kind of up and coming for sure. Yes.
I know you were trying to show the console emulator
Mhm.
demo and what's working with the internet, but you built it with a native app for the game controller. Did you notice any particular efficiency that was like, a little bit better latency on the native controller versus doing it just in browser?
Right. So yeah, there was definitely some advantages to the native one. I originally built this app or the thing just using an HTML5 controller. Definitely the latency was better when I'm using a native app. There's a great library and stuff, and I think that's just because your phone, you maybe have a million a whole bunch of tabs open, a bunch of things running, and it's not necessarily dedicating sort of stuff to it. Where a native app, you can kind of be like, do this now. Another big advantage of the native one and why I sort of did it was the multi-touch ability. As far as I know, in at least on like a Safari browser, I don't think you can really detect like when you're holding B and pushing A and like up at the same time. So it's really hard to play Mario without doing that. But with the native one, I was able to actually detect multi-touch. Yeah. So definitely advantages to the native stuff when you're trying to make something very responsive, very ready.
You mentioned a library you used for the native one.
Yeah.
Which one is that?
Yeah, so the library I used, let me remember what it's called. It's kind of like a library it's using something called Socket Rocket at the lower level, but someone's made something that's built on top of Socket Rocket called, where do I have this? So maybe was I just using Socket Rocket? Oh no, there's one. Yeah, there's someone has made one that's specifically working with Socket.io, but it's built on top of Socket Rocket, which is just a standard like Socket library. So people that might be interested in this, it's pretty simple how it works. When I'm sending an event, I'm basically just like create an object and then I send it with the event name, similar to how we did in JavaScript. We gave it an event name and we gave it basically an object or like a dictionary of sort of information. So it works the same sort of way. It was pretty easy for me to just literally copy and paste and write a little expression that changed the words and that kind of stuff for it to sort of work on in the native code. But that's enough for that. This isn't an iOS conference. I saw another hand right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if you could give maybe a brief description of how the rooms work. For example, if
Sure.
you want to have multiple trivias out and different connections to each one, how that's defined.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. So when you come to the desktop page, the desktop client's a little bit different than the mobile one. It kind of tells the server, hey, I need like a passcode right now. So the server actually generates, right now it's just a random 4-digit number. So there's, 9, well, I guess if you got 00, so there's 10,000 possible rooms. And it just tells the desktop, that's what it's called, so that everyone can kind of see it up here. And basically I'll use the trivia one, I guess, as an example. When a handshake happens, no wait, sorry, let me remember what happens here. On connection. Oh right, this is it's in a different file. Anyways, what basically happens is the client obviously sends the passcode based off of what you're typed in, and it gets the room name based off of that, and it does this thing called a socket can join a room name. So once it's in a room name, then anytime I want to talk, I use, instead of socket.broadcast, which was sent to like everyone who's connected to this app, use sockets.in room name.emit. So emit is kind of like the simplest one. It's the one that just sends to one person. So if I got a message that was like, hi there, I could emit back to him and it would only go to him. Whereas broadcast would go to everyone who's connected. And then in the middle is this like sockets.in room name.emit, which is kind of like broadcast, but only to specific people.
So is the security then all on the client side, where they could go and possibly change the code?
For this demo, totally. Like you could change it. Obviously, you could set up like OAuth, and you could do like you could set keys and all this sort of stuff, so that people can't do that. In theory, right now, someone the server could be running, and a bunch of people could be playing, and it could actually generate two of this. There's nothing that's saying like 9999 room name is in use in my version of the code. So I mean, technically, it could accidentally generate the same random number twice, and there'd be like a bunch of people all in the same room, but like being confused. So yeah, like, but on the security side, it's definitely not. I purposely kind of just kept it simple and open. And as we saw, we got hacked today, so that's awesome. Anything else?
How about over the wire protection? Like, can this be going through SSL?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, definitely. It can go through SSL. You have to change some stuff with ports. You definitely have to configure your server because normally the SSL server is a specific port, so you'd have to be like, hey, I'm using this port also for SSL. I feel like I'm not even saying that right. Anyways, yeah, it's definitely possible. As much as you can secure a credit card going through here, the data can also be gone. Now there'll be probably a slight performance thing. So, okay, I'm gonna get the fuck off because I just got the sign that said get the fuck off. Thank you very much.